That's what happened. Nobody's playing much ball.
Yep.
Everybody's gone.
And what happened to Hank? I know.
You said there was gonna be 15 here.
No, it's only.
He is at 10, yeah.
Gone.
Somebody told me that. I think you may have told me that. And that's seems relatively healthy, but I guess, you know, when you're, was he about 90?
Yeah. No.
Right there.
So everyone's 90. Oh, no, except one. They're on the screen. I'm seeing down on the screen. Good. Well, give it a 10. We had it. He went back up. Oh, sure. Now what do I do? Go to Instagram. Actually, not changing without something. Yeah. It was fine. I'll do it.
Are you still down? Is anything good? Okay.
Oh, we're ready to go when you are.
And you are live already on YouTube. Make sure nobody's signed up to speak.
Okay, let's say it's 1:30. Let's call the meeting to order. I can attest that we have a quorum. We have members speaking.
Nobody requested to speak.
One of the 15 or 20 or 30 that are out there. For the interested parties.
That's interesting as much as we'll adopt the budget today. The secretary's report, Lucy.
Good afternoon. Put a motion forward to approve the minutes from October the 24th, 2024. Do you have
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. I have no president's report other than to say stay tuned for new business. We have a PowerPoint presentation that will reflect some of the issues that came out of the chat sessions. So outside of that, I will save any comments for that time. So with that, let's go to general manager's report. Mark, please.
You all have my report in front of you, so this is for the those that happen to be tuned in, if there's any of them, since there's nobody in the audience except for our small crew that we have here. There's a lot of room up front. The entire staff wishes to thank all the residents and members who have donated to the Employee Holiday Fund so far. This fund will be distributed to the employees in mid-December. The fund has been in place for over 20 years and helps all the employees, many of which work behind the scenes and help make Sterling Oaks a wonderful and vibrant community to live and play in. With hurricane season behind us, we're reminded how fortunate we are here at Sterling Oaks only to have minor impacts. The areas around us, especially the barrier islands and north of us along the coast, will have years of recovery. It's important to remember that the trades, especially contractors, will have their schedules full with jobs in those areas up and down the west coast of Florida. Projects may take longer than usual to complete. This includes building trades, pavers, pools, windows, roof remodeling, etc. We're already seeing some of that going on now where people are trying to get things done and they're pushed. Some of them are 8 and 9 months out. Seasonal calendar of events is full and there's lots of options to choose from. The new fall and spring brochure is a great place to start. You can look online through the website and the Sterling Oaks app for your mobile device or should be on your mobile device. Note the popular activities and food and beverage events sell out fast. Get your reservation in when the window of opportunity opens, usually 2 weeks ahead. Once the event is full, a wait list will be started. Most of the outdoor events can accommodate a large number of attendees. And what we found, for instance, at the last one, that the reason that we put the wait list on is because in 2023, the weather turned really lousy and it was raining. We had to bring the welcome back party inside here. And we did 140 people inside this house here with the food and everything. And it was a crowded insanity. The band was too loud. Everything was, it was difficult to deal with. So that's where, we kind of watch the weather, cross our fingers. And if the weather's really nice, we can accommodate almost everybody that wants to come to these events. So we just tell people to be patient. And anytime that we can get anybody into any event, we will. There are a lot of people that immediately reserve for some of these events and activities, popular events. Just putting their name in there, and a lot of times they're not coming. But they do provide us with an opportunity to fill in wait lists afterwards. We also, out in the lobby, you see the red box out there. That's we're having a kind of a benefit. The kids at Naples Park Elementary. It's kind of like doing Toys for Tots, but we're trying to take care of the kids at Naples Park Elementary that need assistance from us. There's a lot of kids that are in that live out there that really could use some assistance in making this a nice holiday. So unwrapped toy for ages 5 to 12 to the clubhouse. That would be a great donation for us. One thing that's not on the report, and it's for you folks at the board really here. Some time ago, when we were talking about food and beverage operations and what to do and how to manage it in summertime, and if we have an event, why couldn't we do a food truck? And what's a food truck? Could we have a food truck here and there? Today we have a food truck, and it's GFS, which is our the people that we utilize for most of our food and beverage items, groceries and supplies, has provided us with a mobile food kitchen for your perusal, to go check it out, look at it, find out what it's doing, how does it work, get up and close and personal to it. This is their mobile food kitchen. They brought it in here specifically for the board members today, so that you can get kind of an idea of what all of you have seen food trucks and probably ordered out of them, but this gives you an opportunity to really get an idea of what they look like up close, what their configuration is, what their abilities are. Is it something that we would be interested in? Is it too big? Not enough? Is it, is it built the way we want? Can it do the things we want to do? Those are the kind of questions we can ask the individuals that are out here today. These, DFS does take this around to other communities, other people that are interested in mobile food kitchens as well. So after the meeting, I asked that you at least go out and take a look at it and get a tour and find out a little bit about it if you're interested, because we have talked about having something like that available for our outside events and parties rather than trying to find something. Or if we're having a big event up here, we can't, like Thanksgiving dinner's going on. We cannot service the cabana area at the pool for families that may want to eat later, or they want something to munch on at lunchtime. We can't do it because our kitchen's full. A food truck might afford us that opportunity for those types of events. And one thing that's good about it is we can just shut it down, lock it down, close it down like an RV camper and set it. And forget it. We don't have to use it when and pay, for any staffing or for supplies in it while we're not using.
All right, remind us, at the end of the meeting, we'll all take a look.
Sure.
And I think it would behoove all of us to be informed about this potential.
So does it have an alcohol capacity? Can they?
From what I understand, it can. There are, I guess, different variations of the configuration inside where it can be this part food, this part alcohol, refrigeration, beer keg, or pop up outside, which sits outside so that while you're ordering it, you can also order a drink at the same time. So I think it does have a lot of flexibility, but those are good things to find out.
Well, we have a ribbon cutting event coming up. And
Great idea.
this might be right down
Right
down that alley. Yeah.
So we'll take, but that's a good thing, stuff to ask them. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. That concludes my report.
I think you
Okay,
know, though, that the food truck is something for Sterling Oaks to purchase. This isn't something we rent.
Yeah, this would be, this one here is actually the food truck that we would look at making our own if we wanted to. In other words, this would be a Sterling Oaks food truck. I know like Pelican Sound, for instance, has their own. It's configured to their specific menus, what they want in certain areas, whether or not it's at the turn on the golf course or here or out in the parking lot for people that are playing bocce. You know, they have a huge recreational center over there for racket and sports, pickleball. I don't know how many courts they have now, like 16. So, you know, the food truck supplies an ancillary area for some food to grab and go when you're at those areas. So this is something that we could look at for an investment on our part.
And we run
For your situation, if we needed a food truck to look into that, that's a great idea. We can just get with Nicole. She's got her handle on a myriad of those different vendors. So
Can we rent this?
this is a prototype, like if you're gonna go look at,
I mean, if we bought it, could we rent it out? Could we lease it?
I don't know.
I don't know if there's a market for that, but
I don't know. I know that this is kind of like an RV where you go in an RV and you say, well, I don't want this, but I'd really like that. I'd like these seats, but make it a table. I think that that's what this would allow you to do. Is that right, Nicole? That this would be, that this mobile food kitchen is,
But we wouldn't rent it out to somebody.
you can customize it to what we would like it to be.
Correct.
It can be built to our specifications. Like, we're not a taco pizza kitchen, maybe we're more of a burger and sandwich soup kitchen. I don't know. I mean, it can be configured with the specific types of cooking apparatus and, you know, refrigeration, et cetera, for what would be best suited for us here at the club. So, and I think this is just a,
One that's out there now is like the Mac Daddy that they can do. There's also other types of trucks you can get and with the equipment. There's also travel like trailers that you can get depending upon what we need and what we're trying to accomplish. This is just for you guys to view, to see all the different types of equipment, what kind of food can be done out of it. When we have the food trucks for the concert series, it's usually like a burger and hot dog and that's all they do. Or a taco truck and that's all they do. The one that's out there now can handle any type of menu. But Jonathan that's out there, he was in the building process of this, so any questions that we're not able to answer, he'll definitely be able, after his presentation, to answer. I do know with the health department, once if we were gonna do something like that, our license would be for Sterling Oaks only. You couldn't rent it out to somebody else.
okay, good question.
It would
Good
just be
answer.
specifically for us.
Fine. Okay.
I have a couple questions.
Here,
Lucy has a couple questions.
Lucy, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Have we considered where we would park this and would we need a special permit of sorts for that size of a vehicle?
This is not on the agenda. We voted it down.
When he was pulled into the snow, I asked him how many spaces he needs, and he needs like 5 parking spaces.
Move along.
It'd probably be something that you need to look
Sorry,
into.
Nicole, I can't hear you. There's another conversation going on.
Sorry.
The mic's on this table, Nick. You might have to come over here.
Oh, okay.
I could hear her, but somebody else was also talking.
My suggestion would be to look into like a storage facility, like on the back of Old 41. They have RV and boat storage places that would be off property that we could hold that.
Mhm.
Size of the bus. But again, it depends on what size we all need and budget and what we're trying to accomplish. This is just to show you what it could be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one last thing, Mark, maybe you can catch us up on the status of the surveys.
I have not heard from Jerry, other than I know that it closed on the 19th. I haven't received any information from him as to the numbers, or that. I'm waiting for it. I thought that I was gonna get it pretty ASAP. I just don't know what his schedule is like, and usually he's pretty on the mark.
Yeah.
So, as soon as I get anything from him, it'll be spread to you at the board to,
Yeah, I'm sure all the
disseminate.
board members here are wondering where we are with that, and what the
Bringing
status is.
Bringing that up, I did not receive a copy of the survey, and neither did my wife. And neither did Dan Chirakas and a couple other friends I know who did not receive, even though we looked in our junk mail.
from Gerald, from GS Schoenfeld.
Right.
So that's why we sent something out and made sure.
You
Contact.
sent it out and said it would be coming.
And then we sent it out saying if you didn't receive it, make sure you contact Jerry.
Didn't get that
Yeah,
one.
so that
I
we
didn't
can,
read that one.
so that we can, yeah, because we don't know why, except for we did hear from a lot of people saying I didn't see anything from Sterling Oaks. And this is a lesson learned. Normally, the surveys come from the office and that says click here. So that you get something from Sterling Oaks and click here and it may take you to the survey. This was a little different and this was taken and given to us through Jerry, sent to us by Jerry from his email at gsschoenfeld@fgcu.org or at edu. So it did not come from us. And that threw a lot of people off saying, I didn't get anything from Sterling Oaks. You didn't, you got something from Jerry Schoenfeld. And they're like, who's that? So that's why we kind of sent it out 3 or 4 or 5 times to try to get people to understand that. But if we need to, and possibly Paul find out if Jerry says, that we had a lot of unanswered, or we sent out emails that bounced back, we may want to look at giving everybody a couple more days or to take care of that. And I think it's only fair. So because there was a kind of an odd.
Well,
I guess
we'll be in touch with Jerry
Yeah.
and find out.
Right, because we want
Where we are.
everybody to have their fair share and say, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, let's move along. Any other questions? Let's go then to treasurer's report. John Mulligan, you're on.
Okay, we just got the financials last night. I'm still going through them, doing some analysis, asking some questions. But nothing's out of line. Cash is still strong and we're better than budget by 10,000 for the month. I'll send something out in the next couple of days, my normal report. Okay, what do we got here? I'd like to make a motion to suspend the following members as described in Sterling Oaks collection policy and refer the account to our attorney to pursue all legal remedies available if not current by December 1st, 2024. S0063, D0065, H0053, and K0051.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
Lucy seconds. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, John, let's go to
The budget.
5 proposed budget.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 proposed budget that was sent out to the community last month and we talked about in the last month.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Rick Sanders seconds the motion, discussion.
I'll start. I had minimal questions on the budget from anybody. And from what I heard from the other board members, they didn't have many either. And for the most part, the comments I had heard were positive.
Okay, any other comments or remarks on the budget?
I have questions for the record.
Go ahead.
A credit to our finance committee and the tennis group. According to this, tennis is 108,000 above costs, direct costs, not including indirect costs. And I spoke to John earlier, and they're getting closer and closer to covering both their direct and indirect costs. So I credit John and the finance committee for a job well done there. I did have a question, however, about our food and beverage. Now, I understand it's always a losing proposition, but this year we lost $250,000. Next year, we anticipate losing $300,000. So my question then is, between our finance committee and our activities committee, we take a look at our activities and the events that we have and get an idea of why it's $300,000 next year. And more importantly, why it has to be $300,000. Okay, and I spoke to John a little bit about this already, but I wanted to get it on the record. I want the 6 people that are watching this to hear those numbers. Thank you.
Are you saying it should be more than 300,000?
No, it should be less.
Less than 300,000? Brownie,
I had some comments which really echo what John said. As y'all know, I've had some trouble with the budgeting system. I don't think the board gets involved enough. If I look at this proposed budget and look at that column where you look at the monthly assessment, the biggest part of the assessment is landscaping. The number 2 is the HOA reserves. And number 3 is actually that debit for the activities, the rest are debits. Yet we spend hours and hours on every dollar with tennis, which actually contributes about $100,000 a year. But the board has never sat down, and as John's point, I understand why we have a $300,000 debit in restaurant. What might we do to decrease that? Why is that? What contributes to it? Plus, on the reserves, which is again, the second biggest item in the assessment, we never look at, understand what's in there, look at it. Actually follow the cost in reserve each year. In other words, you asked me how much we spent out of what was reserved budgeted for this year and how much we spent. I have no idea. It's never reported to the board. The board never sees that. So I'll be leaving the board in March and not rerun. But I would suggest, as Paul suggested, I think last week, the board needs to get more involved earlier in looking at particularly the main parts of the budget. And particularly, we always focus on tennis, which actually is the one area that contributes positively, but we don't look at those other big areas. So I would hope that the board in the future, I would even recommend having a board meeting where the board goes over the budget in a lot more detail than we have. And I think Paul suggested that last year. Okay. So that's, again, I'd like that to go on the record. Somehow Cezanne really supporting what John Cole said.
any other comments about the budget? John,
I
let
do.
me have any. John, go ahead then, John.
Okay, well, to Brownie's comment, I'll take his one at the end. Last year, Brownie, you asked to see stuff regarding the reserve. Every month you get a report that shows exactly what was spent and everything. So that's happening. All right. Number one. Number two,
I don't know where I get it. I haven't gotten it to my knowledge.
if you look at the board report every month, it's in there. Okay. Number two is, okay, Brownie, let me finish talking, please.
That showed me what we spent in reserves each month and how that compares to what the reserve was. Okay, I haven't seen that, John. So again, I asked for it several times, but to my knowledge, I don't have it. When you make these monthly reports at the board meeting, there's no details on the reserve and how that compares with what was actually budgeted in the reserve this year.
Okay. All right. Okay. From now on, please raise your hand, talk, and don't overtalk me, Brownie. Okay. So, Cezanne, could you please show Brownie where it is in the report every month? Okay. And second of all, yourself and any other board member can look at any detail they want. Okay, throughout the whole process.
We'll both be leaving the board.
Brownie, please be quiet, Brownie. I'm
You won't be on
talking.
the board next year. I won't be on the board next year.
Hey, Paul, can you please take control of this?
Okay.
All right. Lynn,
I do like the idea of a budget workshop meeting with all of the board in the future. I just think that we're not accountants. We all have our own language from whatever skill we did have for employment. But the language of accounting and finance, a lot of it, and I asked John, I text him and I say, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? Because I want to know. And I think we should be really educated. And a workshop, I know in the school board situation, they have school board workshops where the board studies the budget. And I think it would be good for any board to do that. Secondly, I would like to speak in defense of the food and beverage. Food and beverage always loses money. You cannot possibly charge enough for a meal to cover the total cost of it. And everybody wants music at the venues. Everybody wants to have certain foods, and they want parties, and they want get-togethers. The whole idea of an activity in a social committee is it's a healthy part of living in a community. And it's going to cost money, and you're never gonna make enough to cover it, and we are bare bones here. Nicole counts, she counts how much she has to order all the time. She's so meticulous about costing out. So do we on the activities committee. I just think that it's just something that we've got to live with. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. So that's my feeling.
All right, so we have two things to consider down the road. There's no action to be taken today, but for the record, there's a request to have the board more involved in the budget process next year. And how that happens, I'm not quite sure, but let's, for the record, indicate that we will look forward to more board involvement early on in the budget process. And number two, we should continue the discussion about the subsidy for food and beverage. So my understanding is our claim to fame is that we probably lose less money than most clubs in the area, because every club in Southwest Florida loses money to food and beverage. Ours is not quite as drastic as other clubs, but nonetheless, we still have a subsidy. So we have two things to consider down the road. This food and beverage subsidy and more, further board involvement with the budget. So with that, can we move on?
You have a motion on the table that you need to vote on.
Any other discussion? So if not, I'll call for all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you for that. Let's go to committee and project team reports. Number one, activities, Linda.
Okay, if you're reading the report in the packet, the report has changed drastically. We had an activities meeting this morning at 10 o'clock where things were tweaked and changed and added to, etc. So when I deviate from the print, I'm not hallucinating, I'm just reading a little different.
Did you read it? Could we get copy? I don't even have in the packet. My packet doesn't even have the earlier version.
Then you must have printed the early version of
Here it is right
the.
here. I just printed it.
All right, so why don't you read it?
Yeah, read it, but then I'd like to have a copy of it.
You printed the first version of the packet. The second version came out on Tuesday, the updated version that included the activities report.
Did you change that?
I don't have her latest and greatest update.
He doesn't have it either.
What I'm saying is after the meeting, can you make copies so we can have the update?
Of course.
I don't have Lydia's new.
She's going to give it to us after the meeting.
Okay, I don't
I
have
got
her.
it. I'll make copies. November, past events, just to highlight a couple of past events. You all received a video on your email concerning the Veterans Day barbecue and celebration. Lauren Rodriguez, U.S. Coast Guard and a scholarship recipient this year at Florida Gulf Coast University, was our guest at the Veterans Day celebration November 8th, and personally thanked Sterling Oaks for her scholarship. She made the video about how she spent Veterans Day, and of course, Sterling Oaks and our celebration is all part of her video. I encourage you to view it if you have not already. The welcome back party was a success, and the girls' night out was a lot of fun. Looking ahead, Friday events are November 22nd, December 6th, and December 13th. November 22nd, dining with music by Jason DeSimone. December 6th, music by Larry Roberts. And December 13th, Wendy Renee, who is a new guest coming to perform for us. And she is very much in demand in South Florida. And this is the first time Nicole's been able to book her. Saturday, November 23rd, pool party with music by Travis. No reservations necessary. Come join in the fun. Saturday, November 23rd at 9:00 a.m., tennis skills and drills. Thursday, November 28th, Thanksgiving buffet at the club, 11:30 to 3:30. Reservations required. Friday, November 29th, the cabana will be open. Wednesday, December 4th, the dining room is closed. All cards and games will be in the multi-purpose room. Thursday, December 5th is a craft market and gift wrapping. This is a legacy event. Let the professionals wrap your gifts and donate to a good cause at the same time.
We're not doing.
So far, 5 tables have reserved to sell their crafts. Great time to buy a gift and get it wrapped too. Tuesday, December 10th, the book club will meet at 1. The book is The Bookstore of Hidden Dreams by Karen Hawkins. Saturday, December 14th, the dining room is closed. Friday, December 15th, tennis exhibition, all are invited. Monday, December 16th is dine out or take out at Zeppi's Pizza. Mention Sterling Oaks and our legacy fund will receive 10% of the bill. Easy way to help the scholarship fund. All members of the club and their guests may participate. Friday, December 20th, the dining room is closed. Tuesday, chair yoga at 12, no class on November 26th. Wednesday through December 18th, cornhole. Open cornhole, meet 4:30 on the lawn. Thursday is the walking group, 8:30 a.m. Remember to reserve your concert series tickets. They will be going on sale in December during the first week. Disregard this concludes my report. Additions, Tuesday, 12/31, New Year's Eve at the club. Reservations may be made December 1st. Our theme is Enchanted Forest and the music is by New York Rhythm. Come enjoy a great dinner, dance till you drop, and welcome in a new year in an enchanted forest. A little fun fact. Auld Lang Syne was written by the national poet of Scotland, Robert Burns, in 1788. And the phrase, a cup of kindness, means sharing a drink with friends, a toast to a loved one, kindness, and positive vibes. I wish you that for New Year's Eve. Wednesday, January 8th, next activities meeting. Friday, January 10th, Girls Night Out, Hawaii. We will be boarding the Naples Princess to enjoy a cruise passing through Doctor's Pass and cruising by the many beautiful waterfront homes in Naples. Activities on board include a fashion show from designer stores like Black and White, a sea breeze luncheon plus a glass of champagne. A delightful day on the Gulf. Be sure to make your reservations early. Saturday, January 11th is a legacy car wash. Your car wash will be washed meticulously by Florida Gulf Coast students and a host of Sterling Oaks volunteers. The fun begins at 8 a.m. and ends at noon. Donation at $20 per car makes you a scholarship donor. The Antique Roadshow has been rescheduled for Thursday, February 6th. This does conclude my report.
Very good. Any questions of Lydia? No questions, and we'll carry on. Look to landscaping. Lydia, you're back in the harness.
Yeah. There is a bamboo problem in Sterling Oaks.
Right here in Sterling.
The HOA has already removed several bamboo trees caused by their unchecked spread from the property at 1330 Old Oak Lane, the corner of Willow Bend and Sterling Oaks Drive. The bamboo spread of the HOA side of the fence and crowds out the landscaping. Bamboo is a very fast-growing tree. The landscape committee is very concerned about this and has left it unchecked and has unanimously agreed that bamboo should be banned in the community and the homeowner should pay for any future HOA remedies, not the HOA. We have had numerous discussions with our landscape committee expert, and their only solution is to trench and build a concrete stem wall below grade after cutting existing roots to stop the roots from entering HOA property. The cost of this is $2,480. And no guarantee the existing plans won't spread further down the street. We therefore request the board of directors to, one, ban bamboo from the community and require their removal. Two, charge the removal costs to the respective homeowner who plants any in the future. This is a very fast-growing plant in this climate, so we consider this an urgent matter. Thank you. Sincerely, Linda Moxley, Chair, Landscape Committee. So,
How would you know which ones are planted new and which ones are existing?
well, we pretty much know the existing ones that are a problem, mostly this one right here, but well, if you're out and about the community and you're in people's backyards a lot, as I am, I can tell you that bit of bamboo. But I think, I don't know, Mark.
It would be
I would
difficult to manage having them be charged if we can't prove that it wasn't there before. That's my only thought.
It was, when I read it, it sounded like you guys were asking for the bamboo to be removed.
We are
If it's
asking
there.
for the bamboo to be removed at this time at that location by 1330.
There's no
Oh.
feed.
There is a fee.
That's community property here though, right? That's not on the
It's
homeowner.
on our property now.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be charging the homeowner for that.
Well, the point is, I guess, since we don't have a rule about charging, I'm not sure we could charge that. That I don't, that's a Jason question.
Yeah, you're talking future, this is future things.
Yes, we're saying that ban the bamboo.
I was understanding that you're banning it, and that's meaning that you'll give everybody that has bamboo, say, 3 months to remove it from their
That's what-
property. That's the way I understood it.
That's what we're gonna have a discussion on my motion. But right now, the motion is ban the bamboo from the community and require their removal. Two, charge the removal costs to the respective homeowner who plants any in the future.
So you're going to need an inventory of what bamboo exists currently.
And then it's not on here,
Why?
Linda
Why
is the
would you need an
chairperson,
inventory?
but I would think we would address, if we don't build this barrier, then it's gonna keep coming onto HOA property. Now, that's not on her proposal about spending this money, but Mark,
Is there more than one kind of bamboo? Is there bamboo that isn't as invasive?
there is. There's the running bamboo, it's the ground bamboo, it's got these long tentacles that reach out. The one that grows up straight, the bamboo tree, they spread, but they don't go so fast.
It'd be nice if we got a picture, then send everybody a picture so we know what it looks like.
Yeah.
Can we, since Mike from Expert is fairly familiar with the community, at least the single family homes. I don't think the condominiums or coach homes
We don't,
have any bamboo growing around them. But maybe he could give us an idea of how much bamboo he feels there is in the current community. Two, what type of bamboo is the one that we're really looking at being as an invasive, or if they're all invasive. And then maybe we could get some pictures out to the board and then bring this up at the following meeting.
Sure.
I don't think it's not.
No.
It's not growing so fast that it's here
No.
today and then down the street tomorrow.
it's not gonna be,
So I think we can get some more information on it and then bring it back to the board
Sure.
in the next meeting or two.
yes.
If
I
it's
would
not,
think
if
Let's
it's
go.
not,
Brownie, then Lucy.
thank you.
they're in everybody's backyard every week or every couple. Couldn't they give us an inventory? They should know. That's the first thing, is to find out how big the problem is.
Right.
I couldn't believe there's too much of it.
Who knows? Lucy, you're on.
Just a question maybe to take back, Lydia, is if we remove the existing bamboo and you suggest it's that evasive, is there a good chance that it will come back on its own because it just may leave seeds planted? And then people will be, we'll suggest that they've planted them, but they're just kind of came back like a weed.
So if you ever have had bamboo, you can't burn it, you can't drown it. We have it, we've had it. It's very, it spreads the ground, the low one. Even Mike said he couldn't guarantee that this stem barrier that he's talking about would actually prevent it because of it's underground. So
I think we have to be careful.
We'll give you all the information. We'll talk to Mike.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do about it, except it is interfering with HOA property plantings.
Okay, we do not have a motion on the floor.
We're not really.
All right, why don't we move this to the next meeting?
Okay.
I have a suggestion. I would suggest that we move to bamboo, and then the second part on how we deal with it, we move ahead. But there's no reason not to go ahead and ban bamboo today. And despite the fact there's different varieties, what I'm hearing, even all of them are very fast growing. So I guess I would make a motion, we go ahead and ban bamboo today. Just, you never know, somebody might plant someone in the next month. And then deal with how to do the cost and get rid of it next.
Brownie, I've seen this. It's real popular in New Jersey. Suppose your neighbor has bamboo and it'll grow under any fence or whatever, unless it's an 18-inch cement wall beneath the ground. So maybe we should table this and discuss it at a future time, because there's a lot of situations that we'll have to discuss. And one of them being your neighbor's bamboo growing in your yard, who's gonna pay?
Well, I'm talking about just banning any, maybe I should banning any planting of bamboo.
Planting.
To make sure. The worst thing would happen if somebody plants bamboo in the next 3 or 4 weeks before, or it actually could be 2 months. So I'm just trying to avoid, that could happen. Okay.
Well, I'm not sure it's that critical. I'm concerned about, let's get the scientific name of this plant to be sure that what you think is bamboo is what I think is bamboo.
Yeah.
Before we get too carried on down the road here, let's make sure we have the exact culprit at hand. Lynn?
Yeah, so I'll tell you where it's very popular. When you're in a home that when you look out the back, you can see somebody else's land, their pool, you can see into, there's no privacy. So people plant these bamboo tall hedges, the trees, and they spread wide and they grow very fast tall. So they make a wonderful border. People love bamboo for a border. If you want to see one, there's an empty house at the corner of Serenity Circle. It's for sale. And
Back in the corner.
Right,
Yeah.
the whole back,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
corner
Yeah.
behind their lanai
Yeah.
is about that.
No clue.
It was that wide. The people haven't complained, but, and the other kind that grows, they're smaller, lower plants, and we can get the correct name for it. But those are worse. So I'm just saying, if you want to see what tall bamboo trees look like, go over there and take a look at that hedge. It's beautiful.
All right, can we agree to place this on the agenda for the next meeting? We'll get some more details and clarify exactly the issue. Okay, can we move on?
Let me clear, the details we need are how many people have bamboo and identify the exact species, right?
Right,
We need
inventory and.
the inventory and then we need the identification of exactly what we're talking about.
Right,
Okay,
We know where some of it is, somewhere.
we'll get experts.
all right, so we'll ask, Mark, you'll work with landscaping crew and expert and our landscaping committee to clarify these issues.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Pickleball report, Cezanne,
Nope, Mr. Coyle.
that's what I said, John Doyle.
Okay, so the pickleball committee is still meeting monthly. They just had a meeting the other day. New courts, construction is continuing. And we anticipate it to be done, and so does Fast Dry. They anticipate it to be done before January 1st. The committee's coming up with an open play schedule for these new courts. They updated their rules and guest rules, much like tennis, and our open play guidelines. The welcome back is scheduled for January 12th with a ribbon cutting ceremony at the courts, open to everyone. They've scheduled pickleball tournaments much like last year. All this is pretty much what's been going on the last few years, other than the ribbon cutting. Other than that, nothing exciting.
It's very exciting.
Hey, other than the courts, very exciting.
Good. Any questions, Brown?
Mark, I saw you and Cezanne were out there yesterday. The 45-day period, is that for the foundation or for the, hopefully it's for the foundation, not for the finish, right?
Right.
No, it's just for the asphalt that was put down. They're gonna be coming, correct me if I'm wrong.
What I'm saying, the actual surface doesn't take 45 days.
Correct.
Okay.
No, it takes
It's
about,
what's out there now that's
Right.
curing. Okay.
Question on the sound barrier. I've heard rumors there will be one. Is that going to happen or?
We have an existing sound barrier that we're going to put back up. And because it's so heavy and so thick, we had to include some fencing against the tennis courts.
Okay.
Other than that, there are sound mitigation things that the folks are doing, the pickleball committee is working on.
Good. Any other questions? Let's carry on. The community survey.
no, you have tennis committee.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong agenda item. Tennis committee.
Yep.
In your packet, you can see the minutes from our October 31st meeting. And then the second page was, a breakdown of the proposed fee increase. As you can see in the minutes, we originally talked about having two different fees for resident members and non-resident members. And then a motion was made to just make it 15% across the board. Of course, the board can do whatever they want. But I'm gonna, if you turn to that yellow page, you can see exactly the dollar amounts that would go up for each of the different groups, whether it's a homeowner or an Oaks or a quarterly membership. And I would make a motion that we approve the 15% across the board recommendation from the tennis committee for fees, I guess, beginning.
We're hoping you would do it effective for the December 31st statement, but effective immediately for any new memberships.
Perfect. That's just what I was gonna say.
Perfect.
Good.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
When's the effective date?
12/31.
So
But-
basically it starts in 2025 then.
Yeah, unless somebody comes in tomorrow to buy a membership, then they'll be paying the new rate.
Only comment is we rounded everything up except the 1293.75. And we make that a simple number too, maybe 1295
1290.
or 1290.
94. Yeah, I don't know why that one stayed, yeah. Fine,
You see what I'm saying? In other words, we rounded, we said 15%, but they're all rounded to
nearest dollar.
dollar. And the one we have 75 cents. I'm just trying to make it
It's an easy
simple.
change.
Fine.
I have a question before we move forward on this one.
Yes, I'll come to you. I have a comment first. Why would we not keep the current rate now as an incentive for people to join before the rate goes up?
You guys can do whatever you want.
Well, I guess that's a
So
question.
it's
of
an-
the
Or
board.
if people join between now and the first year, they could get the old rate.
Right. It'd be a
The
bit
way of
of,
looking at it,
maybe an
attractive,
maybe not.
attractive.
Of course, now, does that, sorry for jumping in. If I bought a membership on December 5th, but the rates are going up in
1/1.
January,
Right.
does that mean that I'm there for a month and then I get an
No.
increase?
No,
Or I have to wait the entire year until my next anniversary comes up and then I get the increase?
that's correct.
Correct.
Second.
Second one is correct.
So that would be a fairly hefty, well, it'd be a nice discount for any new tennis member to get a 15% discount on the upcoming rates for the entire annual membership. Is that correct?
Pretty much.
Well, it'd be an incentive and
And you bring up
Might be just
another
enough.
point that complicates.
let's wait and go to Lucy, then we'll come to Brownie.
It complicates.
Thank you, Paul. Something that came up at my chat session and I couldn't really respond to, and perhaps we could get some input here. So for the record, I know the answer next time I'm asked, is there a reason that the budget specific for the tennis membership is not shared with the communities as the overall budget is shared?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
So the tennis committee came up with a budget for tennis. Is that correct?
No, the director of
No, the
tennis
director did, but
produces.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. The question is, and I have no opinion, I just want to understand. The question is there a reason that that budget isn't shared with the homeowners, similar to the overall budget?
John Mulligan.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about individual line items on the
Yes.
tennis budget?
Yes.
The community does not see individual line items on any budget. They don't get the line items for food and beverage. They don't get the line items for common area. They get the overall budget in total. So it's never been done before for anyone, not just tennis, for any department has
Okay.
not seen a total line by line item budget.
Okay, thank you. So then my next question, again, for the record here is, what level of oversight does the tennis budget have? Does the finance committee have over the tennis budget that's done by the the director of membership?
But oversight,
Oversight, engagement, anything?
well, like any other budget, myself and the the finance committee looks at it, make sure it seems reasonable, ask questions. So there's no more oversight or involvement in the tennis budget than any other budget. If it comes back that we believe it's not correct or it should be higher revenue, which we've done in the past, then we will make a recommendation and vote on it like we've done before to have it changed.
Thank
So
you.
the same oversight goes into every department.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Can you clarify your motion? I'm sorry.
15, well, that might change. Go ahead,
Okay.
Brownie.
Mark, you brought up a point that just non-resident members pay for the year. So if they sign up in December, they would get the old lower rate for the year. But homeowners are billed monthly.
Correct.
So does that mean the homeowners will all increase in January 1st, but the non-residents won't?
If-
Or will we actually do it as the homeowner comes up, which is a lot more work for you?
Per your rules and regulations, if you pay annual, you pay the fee at that annual rate. If a homeowner decides to defer their membership and pay monthly, your rate changes effective when the rate changes.
So we go
So
up
if
in
you-
January.
You're saying that's written down somewhere?
Yes. It's been a part of the rules and regulations of the tennis department ever since I started here 20 years ago.
What did you say, homeowners pay monthly?
There are handfuls.
I don't
of-
pay monthly.
We don't.
I don't either. I pay it all at once.
Whenever it comes
Oh,
up.
I've been here 16 years. I mean,
I've been here 7, we pay monthly.
Most of the older tennis, the
Be
original
careful. Be
membership.
careful.
That's why I thought the
Be
original
careful.
members, pay monthly. But like those that have come in the later years, we try to collect it up front, and then you guys generally just pay it on an annual
oh, I
basis.
thought all homeowners paid monthly.
No.
Okay.
All right, so the motion is for 15% and to have it take place on January 1st. But if you join between now and January 1st, the incentive is that you get to have the old rate,
So it's effective January 1st.
period.
Perfect.
Right,
I got a question.
Rick seconded
Question.
that.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Ken.
let's go to John Mulligan and then Ken Swallen.
Question. I'm assuming most of the outside members have January 1st date?
No, that's not true.
I would say most of them do, but it's not set that way. That was a dream of mine that everybody would be a January 1 start date. And maybe I could do it in the next month, but
But a
No.
majority. So
Oh.
my question is, can they renew early
well,
to beat the system? Okay.
no,
Only if you renew date.
no.
Okay,
Nice try, John.
Ken Swallen.
I have a question on, we keep talking about the different classes of tennis members. How many people are tennis only after the date when we said they didn't have all the benefits of all of the facilities? How many of them are Oaks members? How many of them are quarterly tennis members? How many of them, you gave a chart here that's coming up later, and yet, there are no numbers as far as how many members are really involved.
The tennis office has all that.
You have-
Monthly.
I mean, if you want to vote on the motion, I can hit on this subject when we go through it through the PowerPoint.
Yeah, well, that's up to Ken.
We can tell you.
Those numbers are available.
We have those
Yeah, they're-
latest numbers for you.
Yeah,
We can
they
tell
run
you.
those every month.
I
Well,
can tell you,
I think we ought to know.
you have two non-resident Oak, these are non-resident numbers. You have 2 non-resident Oak families with amenities, 6. You have 3 non-resident Oak singles with amenities. These are members, not memberships. You have 168 family with amenity members. You have 110 single with amenities. You have 6 tennis only family members. You have 11 single tennis only members. And you have the other one is a tenant that is your quarterly, so they have amenities because they rent here. So that's it.
Sound like 17, Ken.
17 non-residents
17.
do not have any amenity use except for tennis. The rest of the non-resident memberships
Have amenities.
have amenity usage,
We're grandfathered in.
which were grandfathered in prior to.
And that 17 number will grow each year as we go down the road. That number will increase.
Hopefully.
Well, and the other number,
Is decreasing.
in January of this year, we passed a motion that we would have 330 tennis members.
No, you have 350 is your cap.
Not if you read the minutes from the January meeting of 2024, we said 330 members. And that's why I don't understand where the 350 came from.
We always remembered 350, but
I don't ever remember 330, but I'll open up the minutes while.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Well, where are we going with this?
Well, I was curious, what the mix of outside versus inside are. Is a family membership one membership, or is a family membership multiple memberships? And does that go to the 350, or does that Is it one membership that goes towards the 350, or can they have 10 people on that?
No.
You have a
There's-
family membership of 2 people, we're counting 2 people, we're not counting 1.
Okay, and that's the same for
Yeah.
non-residents.
Right, right.
The biggest item on
Right.
landscaping is that.
Okay, Lucy,
Me, I know y'all do.
do you have a question? Were you adjusting your screen?
No, I'm good. I was just.
ready for a vote. Okay,
Thank you.
any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Anything else on tenants?
No, all good, thank you.
Okay, project updates, irrigation project. Mark?
They're digging holes. They're digging holes everywhere. All the control wires are in. The only thing that we were waiting on was the last of the specialty valves that can sense water flow and then shut down certain areas if that water there's a break in the main line pipe. We found in Willow Bend on Old Oak Lane that we were going to put in one valve on the right-hand side of the street, but we found out that actually the water comes in from the bottom. We were hoping that everything would be in a loop system. We're finding out that it's a spaghetti factory out there, and that we're having to install these on both sides of the street. We found out, for instance, in Rick's Preserve, that the water comes down from the clubhouse area that way from the pump and goes into the preserve at the corner, and they were going to put a valve right there. So they put the valve in, they shut it off, they turned the pumps on, and there was water coming into the preserve from the backside. It actually comes from down below Sanctuary Point and comes back up because there's a pipe underneath the road that they didn't even know was there. So they dug 6 holes in the preserve yesterday, trying to find where those pipes were. And today they're digging holes in Old Oak Lane on each side, down 5 feet. They found that main lines. Once they install the last of those hydrometers, then they will be finished with their system.
What are they digging holes to find? The main line?
Digging holes to find the main line, because there is no
Install.
maps, hydrometer, just hydrometers. And those hydrometers are crucial to maintaining the system and receiving information about it.
Yeah.
Once those are in and everything's done, then I'm still waiting for the as-built drawings from Russ Geiger. And I'm waiting for the schedules that are for not only for every neighborhood, but for each of the condominium associations, so that if building 1420 says, I'm getting any water, we can, maybe it's Cambridge or whoever the management company is, can say, no, I see that it is coming on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday, at X day. So when I get all those schedules back in, they'll be distributed, and then I'll have availability as well. Should be able to go onto my computer, pull up the entire community and find out where every valve is and what's been going on with it. So I can help with the landscaping and monitor that system. So we're almost there. We're just waiting for the final touches to be done.
One final touch. At least the 2 beyond the common area and Sanctuary Point, they still haven't resod around the control boxes. Maybe they're gonna wait and do that after all this digging.
They very well could.
But make sure that's on their list.
You got it.
There's probably some others, I'm guessing.
I think there is. Yeah.
Any other questions on irrigation? If not, let's move to pickleball. Have we reported out on that already?
We did, yes,
So the updates are all updated.
yes.
Okay, community survey. Now, as we mentioned earlier, they all wrap up this week. How would you feel about having Jerry Schoenfeld come by at the next meeting and talk to us about his survey, what it all means, at least according to him?
You did? Okay, good.
Can we have the results before then?
What happened with Ken's stuff? So if we get.
Yeah, I suppose we could share that. Sure. But we put the committee together to make sure that the respondents and the answers were all valid and reliable. We had John Coyle, Lanny Wheeler, myself, and Mark sit on the group with Jerry Schoenfeld. So he'll have a lot to report, and we can talk to him about how he set it up and any other specific questions we might have. So my recommendation is to call him in and have him go through those surveys with us. Then if you have any technical or detailed questions, he can respond. I mean, we could respond to some of them, but I think there would be, we hired him as an expert to do this. I think he should be here to report it out.
My comment that would be whether or not we have a December meeting or wait to January. I would hate to wait to the end of January. So
I'm thinking offhand, I'd like to do something like a December 12th or mid-December meeting. And with this being one of the primary agenda items for that meeting.
I would agree I wouldn't want to wait till the end of January.
No, that's too long. How do you all feel about that? Since I hear no objections, that's what we'll do. Okay. Old business. No old business, new business. We've had chat sessions. Did you have a chat session?
I'll be honest, I was wanting to wait till after we kind of had the survey, and I'm not sure. Anyway, you're going to talk about the other chat sessions. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not getting any pressure. You said you had, but right now, I don't feel like there's a lot to cover. I'd kind of like to have maybe the survey or something like that to talk about it a little bit at the chat session.
Okay, so
So I was
My
thinking in
understanding-
December, even early January, when more people were back.
yeah, I would recommend you have one
Yeah.
at that point, because apparently everyone else has had a chat session. Is that correct? So with that, here are some things that have come up. In my understanding, we've had 3 areas of concerns predominantly. Now, you all can chime in if there were other things in your particular chat session that came out that was of note. But it seems that concerns, questions about the tennis program was one thing. Concerns about event registration and sign up, and how do I get in, and why is it that non-residents get in before I do? And why can't I go to anything I want, anytime I want? Then the final one, there were some questions on the capital contribution. The amount of money that you owe Sterling Oaks when you sell a home came up under several of them. And we can talk about that. But first, let's talk about the tennis comments that we had. And you correct me if I'm wrong and spell out what you heard in your chat sessions, but what I heard, I sat in on several. And what I was hearing was, well, how many non-residents do we have? Are they taking our place at events? Where are we going with that? Is tennis paying for itself? There was some concern about that. Are we subsidizing tennis in any way? And where are we going in the tennis program? What did you all hear in terms of tennis from your chat sessions?
I heard nothing.
Okay, you heard nothing.
I heard exactly what you said, tennis, registration and social events and capital. Those are exactly the three that came up in my.
Yeah.
Same three.
Lynn, what did you hear?
Well, I had a lot of things about just the condos. The,
Yeah, a lot of it
Water
was
shutoffs.
specific to that
yeah,
particular neighborhood.
maybe a question about tennis. There was a question about the capital contribution. But I think most of it was geared towards the condo side, so mostly.
Okay,
Try this.
John Coyle?
I sat in on a couple, and those three things that you mentioned were the primary topics. There
Yeah,
was some specific stuff about condos, like Lindia said, but the three that you mentioned were the main topics in the conversations I saw.
good. Ken Swallen?
They were the same three and, you know, you
Yeah.
guys sat in on mine.
Yeah. So,
Well, let me mention one thing. I haven't had a chat session, but I do get questions when I'm walking. And interesting, the most common question I've got at least 3 times is with the new pickleball courts, when are we gonna have people start paying to play pickleball? And I have to explain that it's an amenity and everybody has right. But there are people out there saying, I don't play pickleball, you know, why should I have to pay for that? But of course, that's true for every amenity, and I have to explain that tennis is different. It's the only one where you pay extra for it. And I'm not proposing that, as a matter of fact, my position is they shouldn't. But I have to explain why they don't pay for pickleball.
John
And
Mulligan,
that has come up 3 times.
John Mulligan, what about your chat session?
The same 3 that you mentioned, pretty much in that order, the tennis, the capital
Social-
contribution.
Yeah. So to that end,
Can I add?
Lucy, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. 2 things. One was in terms of tennis was if my HOA is paying for some of the maintenance of the tennis courts, then why can't I have access to them? And 2 was particularly vocal, a few of them about the landscaping, the turnover of tickets that are open and not really closed or no communication. So those were the 2 items. Outside of the
Okay.
ones you've already mentioned, sorry.
Right. So to that end, I've talked with John Mulligan and we thought we would do a presentation for the board to kick off this concept with the intent that we may do this presentation at the annual meeting also. Inasmuch as there are concerns and questions and a lot of misunderstandings about the tennis program, we thought we would try to clarify things as much as we could between now and March and maybe polish this presentation for part of the report at the annual meeting. So with that, John, do you want to kick us off in terms of the PowerPoint?
Sure. You said we wanted to respond to what we heard during the chat sessions. One of the top items was brought up in the chat sessions as well as before was about the tennis program and the financial impact it has on our community. We thought it'd be a good idea to set things straight. Okay. We have some board members and members of the tennis community who think that the tennis program makes more than enough money to cover all tennis direct expenses and then some. And that has been going on forever. Not true. We have some board members and members of the community that think that we are paying a big subsidy for tennis program. That is also not true, at least not anymore. These are the facts. Let's get to the first slide with the numbers. There we go. Okay. As I said, these are the facts. The first slide shows the tennis financials over the last 10 years. These are actual numbers from our year-end results. These are not made up numbers that someone thinks happen or might happen. Over the last 10 years, tennis had net income of $446,000. That means we collected excess revenue, which is our membership dues, over our direct budgeted expenses. We've had $441,000 of tennis expenditures that came out of reserves, long-term capital and capital expenses during that same time. These are expenditures that are not charged directly to the tennis department. Bottom line, we collected $5,000 more than our expenditures. Okay. As you can see, the first 7 years, community subsidized the tennis program $157,000. Not good. Then you can see the next 3 years, the tennis program actually turned their financials around, contributing back to the community $162,000. That's very, very good. That's mainly because of two reasons. First one, we have more outside non-residents tennis members, and we raised our fees a couple times that we should have done a long time ago. Okay. Not only should tennis program be covering all the direct expenses, they should also be contributing something back to the community for all the indirect expenses that they utilize. Okay, go to second slide, Suzanne.
Well, before we go there.
Okay.
This has to be clear to the board. First of all, every board member here needs to understand exactly what that means. So if there's any question, now's the time to raise it. So as we go through this slide. Everyone's on board. Yes.
It was sent out in the second version of the packet. I can print you a second version of that packet.
Yeah, and a lot of the material didn't end up on the page. It kind of went off the page. It was too big for the page.
That happens.
Paul, can I ask a question? John, since we're 11 months through 2024, do you have any idea how that's gonna end up?
Yes. Let me look here.
On our next slide, right?
Is that on the next slide, maybe?
No, but we should be, we're right now probably, we're gonna end up maybe $110,000 to the good over budget, which once again is very good.
$110,000 what?
Over budget.
Over budget.
I mean, our net income will be 110,000 more than we projected. Okay, and we look to the next slide, we'll see what the reserve spending will be too, but just from the budgeted expenses, we are 110,000 better than we anticipated.
Linda.
When you say than we budgeted or than we anticipated, what did you anticipate?
Okay, that's what I want to get to. I'm gonna try to, I might have misspoke there. Okay, let me, I think I did, but let me pull up the financials I just got today. Okay, where are we? Tennis. Okay. I'm sorry, okay, I misspoke. I believe we're gonna have $110,000 net profit in the budget, but we anticipated we were gonna have 100,000. But we budgeted that we were gonna do good, and we came in better than we had. So I misspoke. We weren't 110,000 better than budget. We're $110,000 net profit.
And my second part of the question is, how much over direct operational expenses did you budget for?
Could you repeat that question again, please?
Yes. What was the amount you budgeted for? Was it over the operational costs?
Yeah, we budgeted that at the end of the 2024 budget, that tennis would make $100,000 more money than it cost us to run the operation.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Okay, so that, not that 100, the money to run the operation does not include reserves, like
Exactly.
resurfacing the
Right.
tennis courts, replacing the tennis courts,
Right.
those things.
So this
That's what that
100,000
middle column is.
Exactly.
Okay.
This 100,000 covers all operational costs.
Direct
More,
operations gets charged to their budget.
More than
Does-
what?
more than, it's $100,000 more than what it costs to run the
Yes,
tennis. Okay.
yeah. So we're not talking about reserves, we're just talking about to run, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Mhm.
And what's the reserve?
So now it's 110 that we're going to make.
Right,
So how much,
Let me get.
What's the reserves for 24 though, John?
so
John has that.
It's gonna be around $200,000.
So we're negative 100,000.
For this year alone, correct, yes. That's why you cannot take any individual year. You have to take like a 5-year or 7-year running.
Well, I'm
total
just
because
column there, just saying, those are all years, aren't they? What do you mean you can't look at a year? Of course you can. You got every one of them down there.
I know, but we can't analyze or make any decisions based on 1 year.
Well, I'm
If
not
you look
saying.
at last year we had $88,000 to the good. So we should say, oh my God, we should reduce rates because we're $88,000 to the good. That's what I'm saying. You can't take a year and try to analyze this. You got to take a group of years to make sure, because it's going to go up and down.
We should go to the next slide. Maybe that'll
Yes,
help.
please. Yes, that's what I was trying to do anyway. Okay, so here, if we look at the next slide, it shows by year what we're going to spend out of reserves. So is it in 2024, it's $200,000. Next year, it's $278,000. Okay, but then it goes down to 58, 41. It fluctuates year to year. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so the second slide. Let me get here. Okay.
Hey, John,
Yes.
let me take a couple seconds here. Because when we were making this slide, we wanted to make sure that there was some definition about what you're looking at. So what John is saying is that in the actual reserves that we currently have, so every year we do a reserve study. It's a fairly lengthy tome, and it's got 1,000 items in it. All have a varying lifespan. Some are for 1 to 2 to 3 years, some are for 20 to 30 years. For instance, all the chairs and tables in this room, which we put in here in 2019, are in this reserve study, and they're slated to be replaced probably in 2030, maybe, or 2029. Each year, a part of the reserves that you're paying into now is paying for a small portion of this room to be replaced. So that at the time that it needs to be replaced in 2027, 29, or 30, that there's going to be enough money in there to do that. And that's why we do what we do, is called a 30-year pooled reserve. And I think it's really important that the board and the people of the community understand that rather than saying we have $800,000 worth of items that need to be paid for this year, that we go in the budget and say, all of you are going to have to chip in and pay so that we can pay for those 800,000. We don't do that. We do a 30-year pool. So right now in the we have how many? 200,000? I mean, 2 million in reserves, or $1.5 million reserves. That money's sitting there ready to go to help pay for these items as they come along. So when he talks about $200,000 in 2024, that's, if you look at the items that were slated to be replaced in 2024, those items, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all added up to $200,000. And in 2025, the reserve study says there's $278,000 of items to be replaced. And that might be tennis courts, chain link fencing, lights, etc. But as you look at it in 2026 and 27, since everything is now either been redone, there's not that much at all to be done out there. And so your reserves are not going to be impacted by tennis. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have to do roads, roofs, painting, other items to be that are in the reserve study, that their time has come due and we have to do it. So it's really important that all of you understand that when we look at these numbers, and then down here on these monthly reserve expenses right here, where he's saying it's 2264 in 2024, 2264 out of your monthly reserves, which I think were at $63. 2264 was the amount that was going to pay for the tennis.
No, we talked about this.
Okay. I was going to get to that, Mark, too. So let them.
All right, I just want them to make sure that they understand that the numbers up here that are the total reserve spending over the next 10 years really have to do with what's in the reserve study.
I didn't even know this has been going. You're coming. I'm
Right,
pissed off.
okay, so anyway, so let me continue then. Okay, so did you see the numbers over the next 10 years?
But John,
Over the
does
next
it-
10 years, coming out,
Down,
Brownie, could you please be quiet while I'm talking, please? Thank you. I can't hear. Okay, so over the next 10 years, we're gonna have $1.2 million coming out of reserves. So what that tells us is for tennis to be covering all their expenses, both their direct going to their budget and to cover the reserves, tennis should be making at a minimum $121,000 a year. Okay, so then we could say tennis is covering all their direct expenses, whether it comes out of reserves or gets charged to their budget. As Mark started to say, if you look at the bottom line, the next line of $22.64, that's how much of our reserves takes to cover that per person. Okay, the next year's would be $31.48 and so on, $6 down the road. And this year or next year, our reserves, we pay into reserves, I think $73. We'll look at that number later, but anyway. So then we got tennis profit. If we make the $121,000, that's going to contribute $13.70 to offset this reserve each year.
Per month.
Say
Per
that
month,
again.
yeah, per month each year down the line. Okay. Then you see the net, that's what it's saying, that's what we're contributing or getting back from tennis each year. This is a monthly figure, but each year for the next 10 years. So if you look at the end there, the bottom line is if we make our number, our goal of 121,000 net profit, tennis will fully be paying for themselves.
And contributing
Well,
back to the general fund?
Well, minimal and very little here, but
Anything beyond
A little bit.
121
Yep,
per year would go back in the
That's
general
okay.
fund.
that will go back.
so I mean, it's gonna be minimum, but it's something. And as I said, this is at a minimum what we should be making. So we can contribute more back into the fund to cover the other
Yeah.
indirect expenses.
John,
Yes.
approximately, what would the 15% increase in the fees this year contribute towards this?
Okay, well, that was, it comes out to be the number that we had in the budget, around the budget. I think it made it up to by $2,000. So I believe this year or 2025, our tennis budget is what, 108,000, Suzanne?
I don't have it in front of me, but the increase will help us make budget to cover our direct.
In other words,
Operating
that's
cost.
what it's geared for.
Gonna make it
Yeah.
close, right?
With
Yeah.
this,
Make it close.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not,
keeping the, basically the same level of membership,
if we maintain our membership,
then 50% will put us where we're paying everything.
where we're covering our direct costs
Yeah.
and that having that budgeted net income of 108, I believe. Is what
Okay,
it
so
is.
that's the goal.
So
Mhm.
it's $104,000 is our budget. So this year we're going to be a little bit under our goal. Okay, but we're working towards it. I mean, we can't get there overnight, but that's what I'm saying. On an average, we want that number to be 121
Right.
minimum.
This is the goal for next year, right?
Right.
Well, kind of. I mean, when we built
I know.
our budget, we built it, I don't have it right in front of me, but say $105,000 net profit. It's not at that 121 that this
Right.
displays that we need over that 10
Right.
years to break
So that's-
zero, you
right.
know?
Right.
For 2026, you should do good
It's an
because
average.
the spending will be way less.
There you go.
You
Right.
see that, how that works?
We
If
had-
you're not gonna rebuild a whole bunch of courts in 26
Right.
and you take in the 120,
Or 20.
then you make money.
And we might be able to negotiate over the years and get courts done
Right.
for cheaper or, you know,
Push
things.
it out a
change.
few more years,
Maybe they're right.
Get
push it out a few more years.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Few courts done.
I mean,
Right.
2030 is not looking good. At 171.
No, you're right, but that's why we do an
We're never
average of
gonna make it that year.
121 a year.
John, in the past, you got a 10-year program here. How many courts have we rebuilt in the past 10 years?
5,
6.
Five,
five,
five or six.
6, 7, 8, 2 and 3.
6, 7, 8, 2 and 3.
So 5 courts we rebuilt.
Yeah.
So in they shouldn't need to be rebuilt
Right.
as quickly.
And they're not in the reserves, they're not in the reserves to be rebuilt until
Right.
whatever their lifespan is.
Why is so many in 2030? What's going on with that? Why are we doing so many? Why did I all end up on the same year?
Right,
What
Why did they
year
all end up in the same year?
is 2030,
No,
11 years from now?
No, 6.
no, why?
Six
6 years remaining life. Well, in 2030, your cost is 171,000. I'd have to look at it line by line, but there is one court due that year.
That doesn't make any sense.
But your cost to redo a court is estimated to be almost $104,000.
So there
So
could be,
out of 171, you have 104,000.
plus you've got
Plus.
court researching, plus you've got other items within the,
So the other years is no court being redone?
Not in the smaller years, like you're
Smaller
not
years,
six
there's no
months.
court being
Does
redone.
anybody else need one?
What is?
The PowerPoint.
Oh, I'd like to.
I got it.
If you printed the
I printed
latest
it.
packet,
Yeah, I got it.
that I had emailed on Tuesday. Okay.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think
Comes down with better.
Any other questions on these numbers?
I
How we
have
got
one.
them, where we got them?
Yes, Ken Swallen, go ahead.
Yes, this covers the direct costs of tennis and it covers what it's going to cost us to rebuild courts. But it does not cover any of the capital costs that we're spending for the tennis members to use our gates, our roads, to keep the club beautified, to cover the office staff. When are we going to factor that into this equation?
I don't know, but are we gonna do that for vendors? Charge them to come in?
No,
you know, they do that in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's right, let's do it.
I hope my pay doesn't change if tennis gets smaller.
no, I understand what you're saying.
It's got nothing to do with smaller or larger for the staff. It's got, and well, it could have, because maybe we need more staff to run the accounting for the tennis operation. Which I'm sure Suzanne does. I'm just asking the question, if we're really looking at this chart, are we looking at everything in the chart?
No, as I said in the beginning, this number gets us for all the direct expenses, and we should be covering some of the indirect expenses, and hopefully we'll get there, okay? The indirect expenses, whether it's in this tennis operations or any business I've ever been in, is a subjective number, okay? Should it be 2%? Should it be 3%? Or should it be 5%? Okay, what should you include? What shouldn't you include? What's going to go away if we didn't do it? I agree that we want to get, they should be covering some of the indirect expenses. But let's start this, let's get this taken care of first, and then we could start getting there. Because there's no doubt in my mind that they should be covering some indirect expenses. And we've done some of that. What should that be? Is it $30,000 a year? Is it 40? Is it 20? But
Sorry to jump in. There's been a lot of discussion about that, and I think that, in fact, John and I, we've gone over some of those things that Ken was talking about. What kind of percentages, for use, supplies, electricity, insurance, other things, that while those people are on our courts, are they going to help us with any of that liability insurance that they might be incurring while they're here on property? Or, the gate arms going up and down more times than it would be if we just had our current group of, resident memberships in the house, or if there's, more work for the accounting. And so there is, but is it, like John said, is it 3% of something? Is it 2% of something? Is it 10% of something that causes those ancillary costs to be there? And how do we look at that and manage that? So, I think that the big question that, that comes up from our side, from the management side, is, well, how do you get to the point where you want to have utopia and have the tennis operations membership be its club on its own, and they almost lease their operations from Sterling Oaks. So that the tennis Sterling Oaks, maybe it's called Close to North Naples Tennis Club, Inc. And it is leasing its enterprise property from the community of Sterling Oaks. And they have to pay for their land, their use, their utilities, all the stuff they do, and for everybody's time and energy. And so how much is that going to cost? The problem that I see, from my standpoint, is I got 400 members now. I think I'm going to need 450 members times $2,500 a pop in order for that money to be there to do what we want to do to cover the costs. The only other way to do that is to diminish the amounts of assets so we aren't having to pay for them in the reserves. And that's less courts, less lighting. Do we need 8 courts with that lights on them that are in the reserve study to be replaced at, $750,000 in lighting over the next so many years? Do we have to have those? Maybe there's things that we can look at to mitigate the reserve needs over time because we just don't need them. So I think that there's, we're pushing at the balloon and when we push in here, it's gonna go out there. I think we have to take a hard look and see what it is that we wanna end up being and how you wanna manage that, because it's great having all the memberships here. It's great having a tennis club here, but it has its effects on the community as well. And how do you mitigate that? So I think that those are all good questions. One thing that we wanted to do in this is just to show you, based on the chat sessions, based on what the community is talking about out there, is the tennis community right now and the finance committee and is working diligently trying to figure out a way to make sure that at least the tennis operations today are getting darn close to not having a subsidy paid by the community as much or anywhere as close to what it was in the past. And if we can continue to do that, then there's going to be less burden financially on the members of the community that don't play tennis to handle the costs of the tennis operation and the reserves. I think that that's what we're just trying to show you, that we're working on it and trying to get there and trying to develop those numbers. And there's going to have to be some decisions made in the future on how to best manage it to achieve the goals.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is that this is good news for everybody. And the critical point here is we need to maintain healthy memberships to support all these numbers. That becomes the bottom line. But let's move on to another slide.
Okay, this one is just our base assessment for 2025, is $389 per month. And it's made up of these 6-7 items, just to show you that the reserves are 7528. If you go back one slide, Cezanne, that's how much of that 7528 will be paying a month for these tennis reserves. So like I said, in 2025, it's $31, but then down to $6, $4, etc. So
I'm sorry, that's not 100% accurate, because remember that you're collecting money today for some things that are slated in 5 years. So
I know I'm saying, but it just right.
So
but in theory,
you can't say that $22 of your $75 is going towards tennis next year.
Because that isn't going to pay for things. For instance, in the 2025,
we can't say that. It's just not exactly that number. Is it 21, 24? Then I don't know, but we're trying to show what part of that number is being used on tennis, approximately.
Right.
Yes.
Well, it's less than that. But for instance, in the items that need to come up for next year in 2025, in the reserve funds slated for those specific items, there's already $258,000 or $260,000 sitting in the reserves allocated currently to help pay for them. So we are already have monies being built into the items that need to be replaced. That's why we're on this 30-year show, not on an individual. That's the difference between a straight line and a pooled reserve. Straight lines are, you are going to spend $100,000 in reserves next year. Everybody gets billed $100,000 to make up that $100,000 and you spend it. The next year you look and it may be 80,000. You're only going to do 80,000. And that's straight lining. You specifically charge the amount that's going to be necessary for the upcoming year. Pooled reserves gives you the flexibility and the fungibility to have a long period of time with a lot of money in it to be able to use as you see fit, or you maybe are going to extend something off and not pay for it this year, but maybe next year, or maybe you have to do it a year earlier because you had to replace it in kind. And that's where it really is. It gives the community a much greater flexibility, and it also reduces the ongoing costs, and it makes it a much more level increase over time. The only reason that our reserves are increasing over time is partially due to 3% inflation on cost of replacing them. And that we're including things like $500,000 worth of new control wire, $60,000 worth of bocce pergolas, and the new capital items that we come up with each year. Other than that, if we didn't put in the control wire, didn't put in the bocce pergolas, didn't put in the new pickleball courts, didn't put in anything, and we had what we had 5 years ago, our reserves would probably be pretty flat. So that's just what we're looking at here. We're trying to give you a kind of a big picture on that situation.
Yeah, that's correct. But one added thing is we were under reserved for tennis, so we had to add 600,000 in there too. So that's what brought this up. We were way under reserve for the cost of replacement of the court. So between that and the things Mark added, that's why reserves went up so much this year. Hopefully next year it'll be whatever the inflation rate for repairs and stuff like that are. Hopefully 3%, 4%.
Okay, let's go. Any questions? Let's go to the next slide if there are no questions. Now, it's obvious that in order for this projection to come to pass, we need a healthy membership. So if the membership stays under the 350 cap that we have, we should be okay. There are some assumptions here that we're going to maintain the membership and that the dues will cover the tennis expenses down the road. So therefore, it's critical for tennis to maintain that healthy membership. We're not suggesting we go over the cap because we do have a cap, but you can see the kinds of membership we have here. So this has to be maintained down the road. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, but Paul, one more thing on that is not only do we want to maintain, we want to increase it up to the cap so we could really make that number and even increase it more to start covering some of the expenses that Ken was talking about. Because we're, if I believe correctly, Zizan, we're like 299 or 300 right now.
Those were I think October numbers.
Yeah, approximately. So we can, which Paul will start talking about later, hopefully get up to 330, and that will really cover everything and then some.
Right.
To answer Ken's question before, there was a proposal to reduce the cap to 330 with some other contingencies, but at the February meeting that did not pass.
So the bottom line is we'll be having some chats with tennis about how important this is. We'll play this slide presentation back to them. When I say them, I mean Paul Barris and his crew and the tennis committee. And of course, the board has to be all part of this. So you see on the next slide, the membership over a period of years. We're going to develop a different slide that makes a little more sense than this. This is spaghetti wiring to me.
Well, I was told you wanted to see what the membership growth
Yes,
looked like over 10 years, so.
Yes, that's,
Ah.
and I thank you for that. And what I'm saying is we'll develop another
Yeah.
slide that'll make a little more sense in terms of where we are, where we need to be.
Mhm.
But I think this is all part of what we have to present to tennis. Let's go to the next slide. So in order to maintain that stability, we're going to need some new strategies to assure that this membership stays where it is or increases down the road. Right now, the only strategy that I can see that tennis has to recruit new members is either word of mouth or a suggestion to offer them more of our amenities. As you know, personally, I've maintained that people come here to play tennis, not to play bocce in our courts or not to swim in the pool. At one point, they came here to play pickleball, but that's no longer an option. So what we need at this point is a new marketing strategy to get and maintain the membership, because that is critical at this point. So let's go to the next slide. And these are obvious reasons why we need to have that. Let's go to the next slide. I'm going to turn this part over to Mark.
So with all of this coming forward and a lot of the focus on the tennis and trying to figure out how to at least figure out how to get more memberships for those people who would drive in, park, go play tennis and leave without having the benefit of the other ancillary amenities and still be here to pay to play. I felt that there has to be some other way than the word of mouth that's out there today. Because if you're a current tennis member and you do have amenity rights, it's hard, I think, for you to sit there and go, well, we'd really like you to play, but you can't do this or that. I think that we definitely need to have some way of having some presence, a digital marketing program out there in the world that doesn't cost much, that can do two things. And one, besides gaining possible tennis memberships, is promoting our food and beverage operations from a private banquet event venue. There is opportunity for bottom line money to reduce the subsidies when you have outside parties. When Nicole books a function for 60 people, then they are from the outside and they want to rent this space. They not only pay a rental fee, they pay for the food and beverage costs. They also pay for the labor costs. She puts the labor costs involved in it too, so that there is no expense really other than, the ancillary costs, the use of the room, the electricity and those G&A things. However, that money, when she does it correctly, because we do it at a higher margin, that money helps us fall to the bottom line. We don't really have a presence out there in the greater community of North Naples, Bonita Springs, South Fort Myers, because we're not in magazines, we're not on TV, we're not on radio, we don't have a large banquet hall like some of these other communities do. We don't have that availability. We're more of a boutique enterprise. So it was my thought as general manager running the operations, how do I drive business in here to try to get not only memberships for the community, because if I can reach to 1,000 to 2,000 to 10,000 people and 10 of them want to play tennis and not worry about the amenities, then I've paid for the year of whatever I'm doing here. Also, if I could book two small weddings, a quinceanera, anniversary, a birthday party, celebration of life. It doesn't matter, one of those types of events for 60 to 80 to 100 people. Maybe they have an outdoor venue out there where they have a reception and they come inside. Those kinds of high dollar items not only assist in utilization of our product and inventory, keep our staff happy and wanting to work here, but it provides bottom line revenue against the subsidy that we pay for the food and beverage operations. So felt that, and Paul Goodra actually was the person that pushed this. He says, how come we don't have any presence on Facebook? And I said, well, Facebook is difficult to manage when you're trying to do it from a marketing standpoint, from a professional side things. We don't have anybody, and if we had to hire a marketing individual, membership marketing people that have that kind of digital background are six-figure people in the world out there today. I don't want to spend that kind of money, and I don't think that anybody else does too. So I looked around and I reached out to digital marketing, this Media Caffeine Group. Tyson, who's the owner, is based out of Dayton. I've known him and his group for probably the past 10 years. They were mostly involved in automotive website and social media work for that. They found that there was a lot of people wanting to do. I've got a plumbing company. You do a great job with your automotive. Can I get my construction company? I'm trying to sell beers at my craft brewery. I need professional Facebook, Instagram, Google search, marketing, so that when anybody types in tennis, they type in club, they type in bridal, they type in anything, those types of things immediately affect Facebook. And where you may be up in Michigan and you're thinking about coming down here and you type in a club, a dinner, something, anniversary, it's going to be coming at you. And I think that that's where our presence needs to be out there so that we are starting to get some traction in the world. I do understand that people here in the community have Facebook pages. I have a Facebook page, but I don't utilize it very often. I tried to sell my boat, but those kinds of things is to try to manage it, because if you get a bad post, how do you manage the bad post? I went to dinner the other night and the food was horrible. How could they even possibly do this? I recommend that you go to Joe's Crab Shack instead of going there. We don't need that on there. So you need to have professionals can understand that. They need to be able to get pictures from here, how to manage, if we have an event out on the back lawn, or it's the ladies 3-5 league that has won the championship, and they can get posted so that all of North Naples, Benita, the whole area all of a sudden sees ladies at 3-0, and it comes up as those Facebook posts that pop out everywhere, and people get interested. It's anyways.
And we're not just talking Facebook, we're talking social media, could be Instagram. There are different platforms that are on the market now that are overtaking Facebook. So there's a lot to be said about social media presence in a business. And let's face it, gang, we're going to meet the numbers we talked about earlier. We need a recruitment effort beyond what we have now. Lucy, would you make some comments?
Thank you. I did share some comments when there was some discussion on email on this topic. I think it's a great idea. I'm doing some work with someone right now to give them more visibility socially through all the networks. Couple of comments though. I'd like to see maybe a few more quotes on the type of work. $2,500 a month seems very high in terms of the amount of work that would need to be done. And I don't have enough of detail around what they would be doing, but when we did some investigation on virtual marketing firms, the upfront cost was a little bit more, but the run rate over the following months was a lot lower. So that would be my first ask. The The other thing was, I seem to keep hearing that we want to increase the tennis membership, but why aren't we? And I sent a link to one of the social presence on, I think it was Facebook, but I think it was PCR, where they exclusively profile tennis clubs in any jurisdiction. So if you wanted to look for tennis clubs in Southwest Florida, there's a handful of them that come up. We should be profiling ourselves as a tennis club. So a tennis community. So anybody who's looking to buy a home that has a tennis facility, that should be coming top of mind for them as well. So not just the outside membership, but also just, why don't we have more than 10% of our population inside the community that come to live here for tennis? So how can we raise awareness that way as well? And just a general comment on the using the facilities for other purposes, that sounds great as well. So thanks for the work on all of that, Mark.
Yeah, and this is nothing that we couldn't sell the community also. We looking to sell homes in this community. What better platform than social media?
I think that there's I look at what any company, regardless of what it would be, and if, from a marketing standpoint, if it was in this digital media, whether it's, we can have all of these things tied to, like an octopus out there, whether it's the private communities, whether or not it's the tennis, it's the real estate, it's the the amenities that we have currently to help sell, along with this, all these other things that we have. I think that there's a number of areas, and she touched on that these types of marketing, companies can target because of their SEO and their search, the way they get out there and do their job. I mean, they have that capability for us to get into a lot of markets to help out Sterling Oaks on a broad scale. And maybe that's something we haven't had in the club in a long time. We're one of the few companies that doesn't have any kind of a marketing presence internally on the staff, from a club standpoint. So. Linda.
So I sent Paul on Facebook. I get a lot of things from other communities. They're advertising. I don't know what program they use. I think it's more than just Facebook. I think they've got a digital some sort of thing. But if you go and search on Facebook, you'll see, like, put in the Vineyards community in Naples. And then everything will come up about Vineyards Country Club. These are all the things I get. Oh, the picture of what they're selling in their pro shop, a wedding that's there, a picture of a banquet, a trip they all took. And I get these all the time. Vasari, I get them from.
Yep.
I get them from Valencia. They're all coming my Facebook. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm a realtor I get it, which it might be, but it would be interesting to know who they're using.
When I was at Vasari, we had just started to getting into that and trying to find out who was going to be internally managing that situation, since they've gone through their transition and board, and also their $14 million worth of renovations over there, to increase their banquets and their presence in the world. They've done a great job of getting into that digital media. I have no problems in getting into and contacting these folks.
A lot of big clubs like the Vineyards, they'll probably have like a marketing director on staff.
Yeah,
They probably
do.
do.
Mhm.
So all I wanted to do as general manager is just give you folks an opportunity.
That's a great
And
idea.
What I would like to say is, I think that we can reduce that. We can reduce that cost on a monthly basis. I would like to say that if we could get, 10 memberships in any given year, it would pay for the digital marketing and advertising that would go on here. I'll ask for the reduction and get a quote that's reduced, like Lucy asked for, and see if all of you would be interested in that. I don't think, if we talking $1,500 a month, that's not a lot of money to really put out there to try to get these types of, venue,
Well, you're talking about memberships, but you get one big wedding, it'll pay for itself.
yeah.
Exactly, that's.
John had his hand up.
Yeah,
Don, go ahead.
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about other platforms, because I got an email from somebody, I think pretty much calling me old, but saying that only older grandparents use Facebook anymore, but they said X, TikTok, Instagram, etc.
Right.
If this is gonna be accessible to them, or we're gonna be including that, then I think that's much better.
Well-
If this is Facebook only, then I don't think we want
No,
to do
it's
that.
gotta be more. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that a lot of people, home buyers age or wedding, or, you know.
I understand, just saying, we want more than just Facebook, that's
Oh,
all I'm
of
saying.
course.
Right,
You
right.
know what? We don't even use the newspaper. Like all this scholarship money we get and we give out and all this big thing that we do, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. We never put it in the paper.
Do people
I-
still read?
You'll see other communities, they raised money for this and they had a golf tournament for that. But you know, we just haven't done, like Mark said, we just haven't gotten into it.
I
And,
haven't read the newspaper in,
I say,
well, a lot of people
15
do read the newspaper though.
well, a lot of
People-
older people do.
Point
I do
is-
myself,
the
I'm
point
saying that.
is, everything happens on social media these days. We have no presence on social media. So I think that's where we need to move this. So
Yeah.
let's wrap this stuff up at this point. We're not prepared to make a motion, but hopefully this will come at a future board meeting. So I'd like to get your response to this slide presentation. How did it go? How did it set with you? Should we present it down the road? Do we need to tweak it somewhat? That's question number one. Question number two is, don't forget that we have this food truck outside that we want to take a look at. So we're getting close to the end here. So any comments about the slide presentation?
I think this is great. This is something that's hard numbers that we can show people too, that they're not just saying, well, you know. maybe that-
I think it should be darker print or a handout. So that people can see it clearly. And maybe a graph, some of the things showing membership type of things.
Okay.
Line graph.
Well, any feedback you can give us to polish this would be helpful. I think it helps all of us to explain what's going on, particularly with tennis. Let me wrap up the other two things, the event reservation things, and we talked about something the other day. Mark, you want to review that?
So, I can only tell you that Nicole was very, reticent about making, or allowing non-residents to have the last week. In other words, giving all the resident members the first week to sign up. And then if there was still room, then the rest of the folks would be after a week. And if that was me, I'd be making out, I would say, well, I'm not gonna wait and see if that event's still open. I'm gonna make reservations somewhere else or do something else. And if it opens open, great, but, so we were talking that it should be maybe 24 to 48 hours. That the resident membership here has the ability to make reservations for Thanksgiving, for New Year's, for the welcome back parties, for the Friday night dinners, for any of those items ahead of the non-resident memberships. And then
Exactly.
2 days later, they can go ahead and then it opens to the non-residents. So it gives anybody that really wants to get into that event from a resident standpoint, they have that opportunity to fill it up. And if it fills up in that first day and it's, then the non-residents are on the waiting list.
Weren't we told that the lawyers were looking at that? And you could.
We're
treat it
looking
as
at
two
that.
different classes?
Well, it's still, one's non-resident. I think what we were talking about was tenants at that time.
Right.
But we can look at non-resident members and whether or not they have that ability. We're gonna check with the attorneys, but
Lucy, let's hear from you.
We have a similar process here through the city is if you want to register for programs and you live outside of the town that the facility is in. The town gets to book 3 days in advance, and the non-residents can only book 2 days in advance. So it leaves it open for the residents first, and then the rest of the community. And it will force people to commit sooner than later, rather than dragging their heels. As long as it's communicated, I think it's a great way to manage the noise, but not to risk the income.
So if there are no objections to this 48-hour advance, why don't we put that in place on an operational level? You can do that.
I want to check with Jason first.
How does
And
that
then
affect renters?
Well,
renters,
this all
I
has
think
to
renters,
be-
you give them your rights. I don't
Yeah,
think we can-
renters are
I think that
residents.
they're
They get-
residents,
They get the use of the amenities.
but they also have the use rights.
Yeah,
And the
the
rights
use rights
come
of
along
the
with it, so
homeowner.
Well,
I'd say renters, they're not the problem.
no, but I mean, there are different rules depending, like Highland Woods,
Yeah,
you can buy a property there and you can rent it out,
that's part
but
of,
not
yeah, but that's
do,
part of their declaration.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
You can make rules.
Oh, it's but we have to change our declarations to get something.
Is it a
like that,
declaration?
Yeah,
I didn't even know you could do that, but they can there.
so we have to look at Jason. I'll get back to all of you. And then if we can implement something, I think the board definitively needs to be involved in that decision. Because I don't want Nikki just getting their shot.
All right.
I think,
All right.
I think that's a good idea too, because you do hear a lot of people complaining that they can't get in. And all you're giving them 48 hours, which if they don't do within that, it's their own fault. I think it's a good idea.
Well,
And a homeowner.
and let's keep in mind, we're being responsive to what we heard in the chat sessions.
Yeah.
We heard it in every chat session, so let's do
you-
something
you-
about it.
You've got great friends in the non-resident tennis memberships.
Yeah,
Are you allowed
Are
to
you
make a
gonna make
reservation
reservations
for
for
them?
They're your guests.
yeah, well, that might happen.
It's me, but I'm bringing 9 of my friends. I think we do have to take. a
Maybe
look at
that
some of
evolves.
Well, that's the kind
Maybe
of stuff
we
we have
come
to look
back
at.
to that, but let's do something here.
Yeah,
I mean, we've heard from people in the chat session, they're saying do something.
well,
Yeah,
we will do something. Let's make sure that we do it right. And it's not
Yeah.
anything we're not sold out on Thanksgiving, we're not sold out on New
Yeah, I
Year's Eve, we're not gonna be, we're fine. So I think it,
And everybody
Yeah.
got to attend the welcome back.
and everybody that wanted to attend could attend the welcome back. So it's a lot of, some of it's urban myth, but that's.
The last thing was capital contribution. We heard from very few people that had concerns, but a few had concerns about capital contribution. Particularly if they had multiple houses here in the community. And maybe thinking of buying even another to rent out, that was a concern. But overall, it came up at a couple chat sessions. Some of it was more puzzlement than anything. Why are we doing that? And we had good reason for that explanation. So the next board meeting, we're scheduled for December 19th. Let's do the 19th. We'll have the survey results. And then I think the board has to make some decisions on where we go in the near future, particularly for tennis and for the fitness plans. Because as you know, to do anything takes forever to get through Collier County. So
Are you all gonna, well, not everybody's here now. You're gonna be here on the 19th? Have you anybody gone up north yet?
Zoom, but I'll be here.
Okay.
I'll
Do we
be
need
here.
to do you wanna do it on the 19th? Do you wanna do it earlier now?
On 12th?
12th is fine.
I think I'm out of town on the 12th,
Also,
What do you-
leaving on 13.
when I won't be here the.
Oh,
John's raising his hand.
John?
There's one comment to make on what you just said. I would like the tennis committee or tennis, whatever, to look at giving back food and beverage as an amenity to the tennis players. But I think we're biting our nose off to spite our face. Not giving them that, it's gonna hurt, it hurts us in the long run. And if that helps get in a couple more people, then I think it's a very good idea without giving them any other amenities.
let's put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Right, wanna do 19th then at 1:30?
You're out on the.
I'm out the week, the 10th through the 12th, 13th.
Okay,
You just, a
Fine.
lot of you will be on Zoom.
Gonna be on Zoom. And it doesn't have to be that long of a meeting.
who's here?
Uh,
Lydia, myself, Steve.
I
You
won't be
guys.
here. I'll be here on the 12th, but not on the.
12th, but not the 19th.
not the
Okay.
19th.
You guys will not be here on the 19th, John, Lucy?
No,
Yep.
coming at 27th.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so that'll be a Zoom meeting, boy.
Which for the 12th. For the 19th.
they're still all out of town though.
I'm wondering,
I'm good for the-
will Jerry be effective?
I can't even tell you whether Jerry's got availability, because I don't know if what's going on there for the, the college.
Should
When
we
break
wait
it.
until everybody's there the next month? I mean, is it that?
Do you want me to get a hold of Jerry? Find out what's going on?
Yeah, let's start there.
All right, I'll get back out to all of you, and also when he gives me how many people did their stuff, and I think, Ken says that he didn't even get the email or anything, and he looked at his junk mails and all that, so I kind of want to make sure that.
Did you contact?
He didn't
Jerry?
get a
No, I
chance.
did not.
So we'll find out what's going on there, and we'll
Okay.
do a little bit of this and that, okay. By the way, the food truck is sitting right outside, that's
Yeah,
a big red and white.
We'll do the food truck and stay tuned. We'll see, we'll talk to Jerry and we may or may not have a meeting in December. We'll see.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ken seconds it, all in favor, it's unanimous, thank you all.
Bye, guys.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Bye, have a happy Thanksgiving.